Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
If you're able to nail this one thing, your bottom line profits, the results across all of your centers will start to drastically improve. In today's episode of the Childcare Bridge, I want to talk about this concept of show me the data. As a child care center, the amount of tracking and reporting that you have to do to legally be within compliance is tremendous. But for some reason, there's this massive disconnect. There's this massive disconnect of you only start effectively tracking when they become an enrollment. But the problem is you are constantly then missing out because you don't have the data in front of you to pivot on a dime. You don't have the data to pour more money in marketing. One of my most least uncomfortable conversations with a center owner is when we look at, hey, we invested $5,000 in marketing. We generated you 100 leads. And they say, well, we only ended up getting 3 enrollments, for example, or 1 enrollment, or 0 enrollments. And my reply to that is, okay, great. Show me the data. Let's look through the data together. Let's go through all these leads. Let's look at everything together. And I can give you the spoiler. The spoiler is the same one every single time. The data is just not there. We go through lead by lead by lead. Great. What happened with this particular family? What happened with this one? They say, show me the data. Show me how many phone calls were made, emails, text messages, voicemails, anything physically put in the mail or sent in the mail, rather. Show me all that data. It never happens. They might be able to show me some of it, and we get to maybe the 10th lead. Then all of a sudden, for 15 leads in a row, there's 0 data. And they start to get ticked off. Well, geez, maybe nothing happened. No one called. I don't know what happened here. Oh, yeah, well, our director, they were on vacation for the week, for example. And then we kind of pick it back up. Okay, great. The 30th lead, we can see a little bit of activity, but after 1 listed email, there's nothing else for 3 weeks. So why do you accept that your team has to have accurate data of who is in your center at all times? What are the ratios that you currently have? You're tracking all the things that are going on in the infant room. You're tracking every single diaper, every single bottle and feed. You're tracking all the food. You're most likely tracking your revenue that's coming in meticulously. Who owes you late fees? What families are behind? You're tracking that meticulously, typically and hopefully. You're tracking your outflow. So you're tracking all of these things, but I would argue that the most important stuff you are allowing your team to be sloppy with, to be sloppy on. If you understand the concept that your entire center business is a marketing-driven business, you are not in the childcare space, you are a marketing-driven business. Almost every business across the globe is the exact same. I can compare you to any other business in any other industry outside of maybe a few small exceptions. Let's say a hospital, for example. You're probably going to go to the ER that's the closest if you have an emergency situation. But if you have a very specific need, you're going to go to the doctor that you've heard about, the doctor that maybe was on TV or that you've seen in magazines or on social media. All marketing-driven functions. The grocery stores you're looking at visiting. How do you think that Costco, for example, is so successful? They're a marketing machine. that just happens to sell products. All these other businesses. So, and this is a concept that I've talked about a decent amount, and one that I'm going to continue harping on until you break through and start to understand it. Until you understand it, you're going to continue to put marketing at a second or third fiddle, so to speak. You're going to keep your attention on all the families that are currently there. You're going to put all your attention on how you can kind of enhance the playground, because that's more fun. But I can tell you that the center that can show me the data versus the center that starts to show me and then the story unravels, they paint two completely different pictures. So what is the data that I'm referring to? When I say show me the data, I'm going to boil it down so that it's utterly simple and it makes it very, very easy for your team to track. Because what we're also going to do is we're going to gamify this. And I'm going to share some examples that have worked really well with centers that we work for and with day in and day out. So the first one is that it's the most basic of level. What are the amount of leads that are coming in? Anyone that's raising their hand, that is kind of level one. So if they have a pulse, they've said, hey, I'm interested, I want to learn more. That could be people sending an email. That could be people walking in. That would be referrals. That would be people coming from Facebook or Google leads, for example. People that come to an open house, anyone that raises their hand. Now, the people that do not make their way into that list are people that are looking for a job or people that are looking to sell you something. So one of the awkward dances that we also get into, and you've probably experienced it, you're going to get some spam leads that come through when you're working with a marketing company or even without a marketing company. They can only control spam at some levels. They can put certain parameters in place to try and eliminate it, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have some competitor that sees your ad and they want to fill out 10 different forms to make it look like all your leads are crappy. This stuff happens every single day in and day out. So you need to scrub that data just a little bit, but I want to know every single day how many leads came in. And you can track this on the most basic of levels using Excel, Google Sheets, for example. You're listing out the date in one column, the next column, number of leads. That list is scrubbed for any junk. Now, I don't want you to scrub it to a full nother level just yet. We're going to talk about that. I want to know the raw leads of people that said they're interested in taking out, people trying to sell you stuff, anything that's obviously spam. Those are very easy to spot. And anyone that just, you can tell that they're not legit. That's going to be your first column after the date. The second column is going to be listed one of a few ways. But I want to know of every single lead, how many of those leads were you able to get a hold of via phone, email, or text? So I like to have the second column be contacted or connected with. That does not mean that they had to pick up their phone. That's a huge flag that I am seeing all the time. Centers will get leads in, they'll try calling. Oh, nobody answered. Guess that lead's garbage. Let's mark it as unqualified or lost. Most people do not want a phone call. They want a text and or an email. So I want to know every day, how many people did your team connect with? Now, what we're not doing here at this particular document is we're not going into each individual lead. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. What I'm looking for is a very easy to read report that can give you a pulse on how things are going. So you might have one day that says 3 leads came in and you were able to connect with 10. You might say, well, Michael, that math doesn't make sense. Well, the days can build. So if you had some days where you didn't get a hold of people, maybe you had the weekend and 20 leads came in over the weekend and you got a hold of 10 people on Monday, for example. I'm looking for leads that came in, and that second column is connected with, had a conversation with, however you want to label it. The next column from there is tours. How many tours? So you connected with 10 people. How many tours got booked from the people that you're connecting with? The next column is No-shows. How many of those tours that you booked ended up no-showing on you? Were there 5? Did you get 2? What were the actual numbers? Finally, number of tours that were given. So if I look at this all the way through, I can see the scrubbed lead number. I can see the next column, which is going to give you how many people you connected with. So you've connected with a bunch. I'm going to see book tours, no-shows, given tours. The final column is going to be enrollments. Did we get 1 enrollment today? Did we get 0? And then kind of all the way down. So what ends up happening is every month you have this data that you can start to build into percentages. All that I'm looking for at this particular level is the kind of raw data put into this particular format so you can calculate some percentages. Now here's where things start to get a little bit more fun. I want to know, let's say 30 days went through. How many leads did you're going to sum all the columns. So 30 days of leads, let's say the number was 100 leads in total. Next column, connected with, let's say that of those 100, you were able to connect with 70. So your first percentage is 70%. We were able to connect with 70% of the people. That next column is tours booked. So we connected with 70% or 70. Let's say that you booked 50 tours. So now I can look at it one of two ways. I can look at it and say, for every 100 leads that come in, we're able to book 50 tours, or I'm able to calculate the percentage and say, for 70% of the people we're able to get a hold of those particular people, we were able to book 50 of them. So I can calculate that percentage, and I can continue to move on across all these different percentages. So I can see what percentage of people no-showed. So if you booked 50 tours and you had 10 people that no-showed, that's a decent amount of no-shows. That means your no-shows are literally 20%. It's not terrible, but it's not the highest I've ever seen, but you can kind of start to get the picture. No-shows, okay, great. So 70% of people we get a hold of. Of those, we're booking 50 tours. Of those 50 tours, we got 40 of them to show up. And as of right now, we've got 10 new enrollments. So what this gives you, it starts to paint a picture so that you at least have some baseline data that you can start to go off of and start to make some marketing decisions. Armed with this amount of data, you literally have the keys to add as many enrollments as you want. If you say, if nothing else changes, if everything stays constant, nothing changes. I know that for 100 leads, we're going to get 10 enrollments. So 1 in 10. What I also know then is that some of those leads are going to then kind of come into the next month. So you want to obviously build on this data, but you can start to look at worst case scenarios because this is giving you the averages, average percentage of people you're going to get a hold of, average percent of people that you're going to book tours, and then all the way down to enrollment. So if I know now that those 100 leads, let's say it was $5,000 to get those 100 leads. Okay. I enrolled 10. My cost per enrollment, or CPE, was $500. Not a terrible number at all. And that magical number that allows you to figure out if you want 50 enrollments, if everything stays constant, you can buy 50 enrollments at $500 a head. So why don't you jack up your marketing the next month? See what happens if you get 200 leads. Do you get 20 enrollments? And you can build out these metrics and data to reverse engineer everything. But it all goes back to show me the data. You need to hold your team accountable. You need to be having these types of sales meetings with your team. Now, the other layer to this, so that is your baseline report that gives you the percentages. I want to see all the data on every single family. Those 40 families that came through in tours, I want to be able to see all of that stuff in a customer relationship management software. I want to be able to see how many phone calls. I want to see emails. I want to see the last action, the next tasks. I want to see all of that from a granular level. But you can't get down to that level until you can have the data at a higher level so you can get a pulse. Are things working or not? If I got 100 leads in the door and they connected with 10 people, one of two things is happening. Either those leads are really, really poor, or your team is not making the calls, the texts, the emails. the chances are very high that it's that particular one. There's not going to be 100 leads that were bad. It just doesn't happen. It's the follow-up game, but until you can see the data, you can't have a pulse. You can't go into that granular level and see, well, what marketing method is driving the best enrollments and the best tours and which one has the highest no-shows. So we're going to dig into that in future episodes, but I need you to have your team showing you the data. Every single day they have to spend 5 minutes and update some data. And I gamify this to say for every day that you do it, you earn X. And I have prizes and fun things that we do all across our centers. If you gamify it, make it a little bit of fun where it's not just a task, they're a lot more likely to do it. If you have multiple people across multiple centers, you're able to see, well, this person, they've updated their data 93% of the time on time, and they've got rewarded with a popcorn machine in the break room at that particular center, for example. Gamify it a little bit, add a little bit of fun, but it all comes back to show me the data. Get out there, put this report together. It literally will take you 30 minutes to get this together. And if you start to spend 5 or 10 minutes every single day looking at it, I can promise you, you're going to be more profitable. You're going to be able to open up more centers, add more enrollments, and just simply dominate. Make sure you tune in next week. We're going to continue talking about profitability and adding to your bottom line. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.